Hey guys, it's Courtney Carson from Cosmic Clarity Astrology, and today this video is dedicated to my Taurus rising and sun individuals, especially the rising signs, but definitely you can watch for your sun sign as well. Just make sure you also watch for your rising if you know your birth time. So this is going to be a full 2026 forecast. We are not going to look at every single transit. This video is already going to be long enough, but we're going to break down the most important ones. And in particular, we're going to look at what each quarter has to bring because the major transits of this year pretty much all fall into, one of each quarter. And so I'm going to take you through the major transits on the astrology chart. And I also have some cards that I am going to walk you through that are going to be relevant for each quarter. And I'm breaking them down into two questions. One is what's the energy or what's happening during a quarter, and then what's the blessing. So we are going to focus on the positive, but we're also going to see, of course, what's really going on so you guys are made aware. So let's go ahead and start off with quarter one, which is obviously going to be January through March. And the biggest things that are happening during this period of time are the Saturn-Neptune conjunction at 0 Aries on February 20th. And then we're also going to have the Aquarius solar eclipse on February 17th and the Virgo lunar eclipse on March 3rd. So let's start off with the February 20th Saturn-Neptune alignment. I have been talking about this ad nauseum for so long, because this is something that I've been, and all astrologers have been looking forward to. I mean, not necessarily in excitement, but just literally looking at and wondering, how is this going to be? And that's because these are slow-moving planets, and they rarely align in the sky. And when they do, they tend to have a large impact on our lives. They also rarely align at such a distinct degree, 0 degrees, which is the very first degree, at the very first sign, Aries of the zodiac. So very fascinating to me. And this is happening in your 12th house. And the Saturn-Neptune conjunction is really meant to bring us some kind of fresh start and realignment in our lives and some deeper soul searching, where we start to look through new eyes around certain things going on in our lives and often have maybe a spiritual awakening or a shift in our direction as a result of deeper existential questions that we ask ourselves. Instead of just living our life, on forward motion, the Saturn-Neptune conjunction really kind of puts things into a perspective for us. Maybe some event happens, and with this happening in your 12th, this event could be some kind of spiritual awakening, because the 12th house is very spiritual. It could be some type of loss or some type of transition, or you might go through a period of uncertainty or cloudiness, all very 12th house topics. You might go through a period of isolation or, kind of separating yourself a little bit from the crowd in order to reflect. You might go through a period of resting or pausing, but there's something here that is going to take you out of your day-to-day routine and pause your life or allow you to reflect deeper on your life. This transit might not affect everybody in the same way. I mean, it won't. If you don't have any planets around 0 degrees of the cardinal signs, then it's possible that you might not feel it as strongly. So keep that in mind as well. But I think that you guys are going to be really becoming more receptive to spiritual messages. You might have insightful dreams come to you, or you might notice certain synchronicities appear throughout your life to kind of point you in a particular direction. And again, this is such an important time to kind of close down some of your senses and turn inward, because you're going to have the opportunity to connect with your soul. And if you don't make time for it, then sometimes spirit can force us to do it through extenuating circumstances. So definitely keep in mind, or keep a lookout for that. Then we have the Aquarius solar eclipse, which is happening a few days prior on February 17th. And this is happening at 28 degrees of Aquarius, and it's a solar eclipse happening in your career sector. So solar eclipse is a new moon, and it is going to, it's going to give you the opportunity to have some kind of fresh start going on in your life direction. So maybe this Saturn-Neptune conjunction basically happening simultaneous is going to give you a chance to look into the future around what it is that you're wanting to have in terms of your next steps in life, in terms of your goals and your aspirations and your career and your ambitions, and how you want to be known and what legacy you want to leave and impact on your family or your kids. And those are things that you're going to be thinking about with the ruler of this eclipse, Saturn, conjunct Neptune in the 12th. These are things you're going to be thinking about through a spiritual lens. So you're going to be thinking about it in terms of this kind of selflessness. And that's also very Aquarius in a way, because Aquarius is focused on how am I meant to give back? How am I meant to help? And that really ties into your word for the year. So this card is going to be the energetic through line for the entire year, and it's generosity. So you guys are really coming into a phase of being either more generous or having more to give, or having kind of more of a spiritual connection that is going to make you think about, again, your impact on others rather than just what you want for yourself. And it's interesting because normally we think about Saturn and Aries being very individual focused, but this is in your 12th house, and the 12th house is the most collective house that there is. 11th and 12th, but 12th is more of like has a universal quality to it that isn't just talking about humanity. It's about everything. And so there's something about Saturn and Neptune in Aries in the 12th that for you is actually going to be kind of blending those two archetypes of how can I express my individual self and my individual identity on behalf, or use myself on behalf of the collective, on behalf of, you know, the universe, what spirit wants from me. Like, how am I a manifestation of spiritual forces, kind of. And so there's again, an interesting question that could come up around that with this eclipse. And if you have any planets around 28 degrees of the fixed signs, or if your sun or rising is around 28 degrees of Taurus, which is a fixed sign, then you're going to be impacted by this stronger than others. So very exciting. We also have the Virgo lunar eclipse, which is a full moon happening on March 3rd. And this is going to be taking place at 12 degrees of Virgo in your 5th house, and that will oppose the sun in your 11th. So this could be a time in which you're looking at your creative lens through kind of a new eye. Let me see. I wanted to see this thing really quick. So it's making a beautiful aspect to Jupiter. Okay. So, okay, a couple different messages. This could be a time in which you are able to maybe let go of some of the critiques that you could have about yourself, or because I will say that Virgo can be really myopic in their perspective about things. And usually when I see a lunar eclipse, it's about releasing something related to the energy of the South Node, and that South Node is in Virgo. So there's something about being too detail-oriented, too zoomed in, too perfectionistic, too controlled, too contrived, that is going to limit you. And because of that, your soul recognizes that there might be something to release here, and instead embody more of this Jupiter in Cancer and North Node in Sun in Pisces, which has a lot more of an intuitive flow to it, rather than being scheduled and orderly and living up to certain expectations and making sure that you're on time and judging or critiquing the things that you're doing to a T. So there's something here about being able to let a lot of that go and kind of trust that you know what you're doing. Trust that you can believe more in yourself and kind of flow in an optimistic way. And this is going to especially affect either your kids, like your relationship with your children, your relationship with just friends and like people in your life and your social circle, even online presence, for example. And this could also really affect your creativity and kind of your ability to navigate your like how you spend your time on short-term pleasures versus long-term goals. So if you've had any level of like excessive control in those areas of your life, I could see you now understanding how to flow more with your intuition in those regards, in those topics, and not be so hard on yourself. Like if you've criticized yourself as a parent, or if you've overscheduled yourself and not allowed yourself to just have fun and hobbies, or if you've really, struggled nitpicking friends and to, fully trust people and let people in. I could see you opening up to a more generous perspective of both yourself and others to allow for more dynamic flow in these areas of your life. So those are the major events happening astrologically. Let's go ahead and dive into the cards that I see. So the first set of cards are going to speak to the events happening in this quarter. And so we start off with the book card. So the book is going to indicate some type of, like, this is kind of like the larger theme of what's going on at this time. And the book represents often something where you are studying, maybe you're literally writing a book, maybe you are learning something. There is some kind of like development happening here, especially in terms of information or just like learning a skill. So there's something here about like, okay, I'm coming out here from the perspective of I'm either going to teach someone something, or I'm going to learn something, I'm going to read more about something, I'm going to improve something through information and understanding. So that's one of the major things that could be happening for you right now. And it's funny because it's such a spiritual time. We're not really talking about as much like learning, but I think that there is going to be that is going to come into play probably around that Aquarius solar eclipse in your 10th house, where you're maybe having some new ambitions, career ambitions or life ambitions and goals emerge around that February 17th solar eclipse. And so during that time, you might realize that there's potentially some information that you need to study up on or learn more about in order to pursue those goals. Or maybe you could be teaching others and stepping into your leadership position with that as well. So the first card that we have is the Sun card. So this is such a positive card. To me, this indicates that, first of all, dealings with children are going to improve. And I think that this Virgo lunar eclipse can speak to that, where you're letting go of any of that potential negativity that could surround you and your children or other people's children. The Sun card also represents clarity in direction, which also speaks to that Aquarius solar eclipse, where you're setting goals and having a clear sense of what you are moving towards. And it's also just a card of optimism. So if you guys have been feeling down or just like doubting yourself in some way, that can sometimes happen from Saturn-Neptune, the Saturn-Neptune conjunction the 12th. It could feel at times like you are powerless or uncertain and maybe experiencing doubt or even self-sabotage. But I really feel like from the cards that that's not really going to be the case for you. So that's sometimes possible with this conjunction if you're really living in the low energy of it. But I feel like you guys are going to use it as, at least those who are watching this video, as a way to go through a period of spiritual transcendence of those problems. So if you've had, self-sabotaging patterns, you overcome them and you do the things that are healthier, for example. If you have self-doubt, you turn to your spiritual practice and time and recuperation to repair and heal your soul and bring out that confidence again. So that's what I'm seeing is like a lightness of being that I think comes as a result of the spiritual practices that you're going through. We also have the Page of Wands and then the Queen of Wands. So I feel like you guys are going to be developing your sense of confidence and self-worth. And again, I think that speaks to this massive transition from the Page to the Queen, which shows an evolution of character where maybe you just started with something, or you're kind of relatively new with something and you maybe feel like you're uncertain of your skills with it, or maybe you are trying to like put yourself out there in some way. The Page of Wands is often a card. Why is my hand shaking so much? When I focus on it, it shakes. Okay, we're not going to look at that. So the Page of Wands can represent when you are this kind of free spirit and you're trying something new and you're just putting yourself out there, but you're dabbling and you're not really entirely sure about it. And then we have the Queen of Wands, which is saying that you grow really quickly in whatever that thing is. So maybe you like this could, like, let's say you, totally random example, but let's say you start to date and you haven't dated in a while and you just go on a few dates and it's something totally new for you and you're not sure about it. And then the Queen of Wands is like, you actually end up meeting maybe some really cool new friends, and maybe you start to make a whole social circle, and maybe you really like some guy and you start a relationship. And the Queen of Wands represents these things accelerating pretty quickly, and you gaining confidence and realizing that you actually have a natural knack for something, or that you put yourself out there at the right time in a way that this thing aligned with you and progressed very naturally. The last cards that we have are the Three of Swords and Six of Swords, which came out together. So to me, these cards together indicate the overcoming of some heartache. So if you guys have had past instances of heartbreak, or again, maybe where you've been emotionally troubled in your relationship with yourself or your self-concept or the way that you speak to yourself, this is saying that you're moving into a calmer state of mind. You are no longer troubled by the emotions of your past. You are no longer, haunted maybe by past relationships. This to me indicates that there is some healing and, again, building of confidence. So maybe you've had fear or uncertainty come out in certain phases when you try something new or put yourself out there, or whatever this pertains to, but it's saying it's going to go so well for you to the point where you are going to no longer feel like you'll feel at peace. I think you're no longer going to feel like you're in choppy and uncertain waters. So the second set of cards that I have are going to be the blessings that you'll experience in the first quarter. So, first of all, before I get to the blessings, I do have advice cards, which is She Who Thrives, Flourish, Prosper, and Blossom, and then She Who Waits, Patience, Waiting, and Determination. So I think part of your advice is saying that something in your life is absolutely going to prosper very clearly, but it also might take some time, or you likely are going to see signs of it coming in or appearing for you rather quickly. But I think it's trying to say that you don't want to rush the process. And sometimes that can be a fault of Aries, which Saturn and Neptune are in. It can want to rush something a little bit further, or it can start to lose hope when the whole thing doesn't immediately happen and click into place. So there's something here with that of really trusting the process and divine timing, and trusting that whatever is coming through for you, which could pertain to relationships potentially, but doesn't have to. It could also be career stuff, because we saw that solar eclipse in your 10th house. But whatever this is pertaining to is going to, I think it's going to actually happen quite quickly, because that's what I'm getting from the cards. But I think it's still saying to be patient. So to me, that feels like even though it's happening fast, that you still might not realize how fast it's happening, or you still might have a sense of like impatience around it, or at times maybe you question things. So maybe that indicates like an inconsistent pace, for example. So just be patient regardless, and know that it is actually going to come through quicker than you even are realizing. So the blessings that you're getting are the Four of Swords in reverse. So to me, I really feel like I feel like this is kind of indicating that, because, okay, Saturn and Neptune in the 12th, in my opinion, does mean that you're meant to have some period of reflection, introspection, time alone, which comes with the Four of Swords. But this card is in reverse, which usually means coming out of a period like that. So I think there might be a mixed energy in this quarter, since it is 3 months. And you might start off in a phase where you are being asked to go within a little bit more, and again, kind of reflect on what it is that you want. But then when it's in reverse, I feel like it's saying you will do that, and then you will get what you need out of that experience. And then from there, once you are clear on what it is that you're looking for, you will be able to go out into the world again and pursue that thing, or meet new people, or experience new kind of creative experiences or spontaneous experiences. So it's not saying that you're going to be hauled up this whole time with Saturn in the 12th and, being alone and questioning things. I think it's saying that you will come to a place of synthesizing that information and then going out and applying it even within the same quarter. Or if it's not within the same quarter, with that patience and waiting card, it might indicate that some of these blessings are going to happen, but they just might happen in the other quarters, or they might take a little bit of time. So I think that this could be potentially saying that these things are initiating in the first quarter of the year, but they might take the whole entire year to fully come to being. So they're going to be slowly developing over time. I think that's likely going to be part of the message here. But again, I think it's still going to be faster than you expect, or like once you get it, you're going to be like, actually, that wasn't that bad, something like that. We also have the 7 of Pentacles in reverse and the 10 of Wands in reverse. To me, this is saying I feel like these cards are indicating that things could move quicker, because 7 of Pentacles upright is like things taking a really long time, slowly and slowly building something over time, but it's in reverse. So this is like, okay, it doesn't have to be that hard. And I think that's something that you're changing right now, is like is your mindset around things being difficult and having to take a long time and having to be strenuous. I think that, again, you need to have patience and determination. But these cards to me indicate that there is still some level here of working smarter, not harder, or working with divine timing and flowing, or having random things like come in for you to spiritually support you. So it's like you don't have to do it all yourself in some way. Again, that feels like a very Aries in the 12th house mixture. So yeah, there's just something going on here where I feel like you guys are going to be able to put down some of the burden, and that the universe will pick up some of that burden. You can put down some of the things that you think are going to take a super long time and a ton of effort, and trust that the universe is going to, in their part, like take over part of that role. That doesn't mean that you give up your agency. I think it's a blend of those two things. But yeah, there's just something here around it not having to be that hard and not having to take that long. And so if this is career stuff, this could look like realizing that there's a better way to promote yourself in your career and to up-level your career without having to go back to school, or without having to work 10 years at the same company. Like maybe you could jump to a new company and get a higher position, or maybe you could promote your business in a different way to get more eyes on it and grow a lot faster. If this is something around relationships, then this is having maybe a change in the way that you are looking at your love life, or the way that you're going about your love life, or having some certain connections come into your sphere that shift the energy there for you, so that you can meet people a lot faster, so that you can do more of the things that you love, to align with people who you meet doing those things, who also love those things, and just finding somebody a lot faster in a more organic way, without maybe having some of the preconceived notions of it has to look like this and it has to go like this and the person has to check this box. I could see you giving up some of that and being able to find more of what you're looking for with greater ease. And the reason I say that is because I got the 2 of Cups. So this card speaks to, like a love match, but it can also speak to having this kind of dream career or this soulmate opportunity. And soulmates can take on forms of events and experiences that feel like they were literally made for us. So there's something about this where I feel like you guys are going to find your perfect match of some sort, perfect career, perfect person, perfect friend group, whatever this pertains to. And it's going to happen a lot easier without as much like pushing, I guess. And that doesn't mean that you don't have to put effort. I do think that's still happening, that's still required, but it is indicating that there is also some element of patience and trust and flow that really pertains to this as well, for these things to come in for you. So that's what I see for the first quarter. Let's go ahead and move on to quarter 2, Taurus. All right, so up next we have Q2, which is going to be April through June. And something I forgot to mention in the 2026 overview was the fact that Chiron is going to briefly, well, not super briefly, but it's going to dip into Taurus from June 20th until September 18th. So I had to look up what was going on during this time because I did pull some intense cards for you guys. So I want to talk about it. When Chiron moves into your sign, it can bring up some of the wounding that Taurus needs to work through, often around self worth, money, or relationships. There can be some things that come up that just need to be dealt with. And that's kind of what I was seeing in the cards as well. So I think that that is going to be really present for you in Q2. And also during this time, you're going to have Mars moving through your first house, which can, again, put additional strain on relationships because Mars makes us feel a little bit more impatient, or it can bring a greater potential for discord in our lives, but it can also make us really energized and able to do things on our own. So you might be feeling adventurous in certain ways and independent, but it's not the best for relationships per se. And that's happening from May 19th to June 29th. And then we're also going to have Jupiter move into Leo on June 30th, which is going to be in your fourth house. And this is going to give you an opportunity to grow within your home life and your financial security and your emotional well-being. Jupiter in the fourth, for some of you, will indicate potentially moving homes or having some kind of expansion within your home. So wanting to have kids or wanting to redo something about your home or decorate your home better. This could also look like going to see a therapist or working on, your family ancestry or doing something related to your family history on like an ancestral tree type of thing, or like on an emotional level. And so that's a really big opportunity for you guys to try to put down roots somewhere to save your money or to grow in your sense of security. So let's look at the cards because this is really what I'm interested in. So for the first thing, I pulled the cross card. So this is going to represent kind of one of the major themes of the second quarter. The cross card represents a karmic cycle, something taking place that may kind of test your faith in a way. And I pulled another card to see what it was related to, and I got Venus, which is a planet around money and relationships. And that makes a lot of sense with Chiron moving through Taurus to have some kind of test in money or relationships, or our relationship with ourself, with our self-worth. So I do see some kind of test of faith here. And again, some kind of like karmic point. And I do feel like there's two distinct phases of this quarter. And you might notice that sense of like things kind of changing over time, especially, of course, when Chiron moves back into Aries, which isn't happening till September. But yeah, you might notice that things start to shift energetically for you guys from the first half of the quarter to the second half. Because the first half, I think, is where the struggle is with the Nine of Cups in reverse and the Justice in reverse. This to me says that there might be something in your love life or your financial life that you were really hoping would work out, but it didn't quite, like it's not quite doing it for you for some reason. So maybe you went on a date with a really great person and you find that they let you date and then you end up they end up ghosting you or something. And you're like, wait, what's going on here? That's the Nine of Cups in reverse. It's something you thought was a wish fulfilled is disappointing. Or it could be some kind of business opportunity that you thought this is going to work right away and it's going to be the most amazing thing ever. And then your expectations are not met in some degree. With the Justice in reverse, it might feel like there's something unfair going on, like some kind of, just like maybe there's something that you felt like you deserved, that you wanted karma to come and pay you back for the good that you've done, or the time that you've put into something, or the time that you've waited patiently. And it might feel unfair that it's not coming through for you yet with the Justice in reverse. However, that's just the first half of this quarter. So it might feel like there's an initial hardship and then again a turning point when we have the King of Wands and the Judgment card. By the way, this King of Wands, I feel like this guy looks like Elon Musk, doesn't it? It kind of throws me off when I see his face. But you have the King of Wands and the Judgment card. So I feel like you guys are going to get to some kind of turning point where you realize that I don't want to put up with this shit anymore. There's something here with the Judgment where you make some kind of important judgment call, or where you decide that you're not going to tolerate something anymore, where you take a stand. And the King of Wands is somebody who can be kind of domineering, and they are very confident in themselves, and it's almost like somebody who's just listening to themselves. So if you've put too much stock into what other people had to say, or, you know, listened, like if that person ghosted you and you started to doubt yourself because of how they treated you, I can see now at the end of this quarter, you making some kind of pivot in your mindset or in your actions where you're like, no, I'm not waiting for this thing to come around for me. I am going to create it myself, or I'm really confident. So there's something here where it's like you're not letting it get you down. You're taking your power back in some kind of way. Because I see this karmic experience, again, initially might feel like kind of like a kid where you're bummed out and you're like, that's not fair. But then again, I see you taking your power back through your own confidence and will, and deciding, okay, I'm going to keep going. I'm going to keep dating, for example, or I'm going to keep trying to grow this thing of my business. I'm not going to give up at the first sign of things being imbalanced or unfair, or somebody ghosting me, or not making money on that project that I thought I would, or something disappointing me in some way. I'm not going to just give up at the first sign. I'm going to keep going. And I see it working out for you. With the blessings card, well, first of all, your advice card is the love, hope, and relationships. So again, if you guys are having any relationship trouble or issues in your relationship with yourself and your self-worth, this card is really speaking to working on that. This is your advice, and to not giving up hope. Don't give up hope if one person or something doesn't work out. There's going to be another option around the corner. And I really do see that for you with the Queen of Pentacles. And the Chariot card. You have so much feminine energy in your blessings for the second quarter of 2026. And you got the Queen of Pentacles, the Chariot, the Empress, and the Queen of Cups. These are all feminine cards, including the Chariot, because it's the card associated with Cancer, which is the feminine sign in astrology. So I feel like you're going to really be able to enter into more of a flow state. And I think this is partially because of Jupiter shifting into your fourth house. I mean, that's not happening till the very end of the quarter. But regardless, I think many of you, if you have your ascendant in the middle of Taurus, it'll happen sooner for you. But anyway, what I'm trying to say is that I think that you guys are going to be building up financial security. I think that you guys are going to be able to really trust your instinct with this Chariot card around the right decisions to make for you. I think you're going to have a really good sense of flow with a Chariot. Usually this represents feeling like things are actually moving quite steadily, quite quickly, that you're making the right decisions and things are pacing themselves really nicely. I feel like you're going to be able to have a good mastery over taking care of your home and your business or your work life. So yeah, I don't know. I just feel like you guys are going to be, again, in this feminine energy where you're able to take care of yourself really well and attract really well. And it's not coming from this very forced kind of place. It's not coming from a sense of urgency. These are very trusting, stable, like everything's going to work out if I just keep going with it kind of energy. So what I'm seeing is like in the first half of the second quarter, there's an initial struggle that might make you that might test your faith, but then I see you persevering and getting into a flow state and things working quite well for you, especially with the Empress and the Queen of Cups. This is somebody who is feeling very creative, and it's almost like everything I touch turns to gold. So that when I have this idea or when I have this conversation, it's like people are very receptive to me. People are attracted to the energy that I put out there. So I just really feel like you might initially get that sense that things are imbalanced and unfair, and then it's going to kind of completely reverse in a way. And I think that's why this is saying don't give up hope with the She Who Hopes card, especially when it comes to relationships and money. So if there's issues in regards to either of those things, don't give up. Keep going and keep working on your confidence and your creativity, because that is where you're going to generate this sense of magnetism that is going to help you have that breakthrough. But really, I think it's just about believing in yourself, believing this is possible. And sometimes Chiron moving into your sign can make you very sensitive, and it can bring out the insecurities. And it's important to, again, just kind of believe in yourself despite those things. So that's what I see for quarter 2. Let's go ahead and jump into quarter 3. Okay, up next we have Q3, which is going to be July through September. And the major things, in my opinion, are really happening over the summer. And it looks like overall it's going to be positive for you guys. But we got to talk about it. So we're having on the 20th, Jupiter and Leo oppose Pluto in Aquarius. Jupiter and Leo is in your 4th. Pluto and Aquarius is in your 10th. So a number of things can arise from this. So first of all, some of you guys are going to be potentially going through some growth spurts or some growing pains, I should say, where you are wanting to evolve or change or transform aspects of your career and your trajectory or ambitions in life. But with Jupiter in the 4th, you may also have a desire for security. You may desire certain comforts or things that you already know, or being able to invest time and energy into your home, like your physical home, your finances, or your family. And so it might feel like these two growth points are at odds, because you can't go out into the world and change your career if you're also trying to stay home and, you know, be a good mom, or maybe you want to buy a home, but you don't want to. You can't do that if you're changing your job, for example. So, or maybe you can, but you can't take risks, I guess, in your career if you're trying to buy a house, for example. So that's kind of the tension I see here. So I could see there being some uncertainty at this time as you're kind of going back and forth here, because I do see that there are some necessary changes. And I feel like you guys, with the 7 of Cups and the Death card in reverse, I feel like you guys are thinking about those changes right now. The 7 of Cups is a card of imagination, of dreaming and fantasizing and seeing for yourself what could be within your career or within the changes that you want within your home. But then the Death card in reverse can indicate that there is a resistance towards making those changes or ending that thing. And so you could stay a little bit longer in a cycle with something because of this push and pull. But on the 27th, we have the nodes changing signs. And the North Node is going to shift into Aquarius, which is also in your 10th house. This is going to kick off the next 18 months of the Aquarius North Node, Leo South Node period, which means that there's going to be eclipses in these houses, in your 10th and 4th house. What does an eclipse cycle in the next 18 months represent in the 10th and 4th house? Major changes to home, family, and career. So last time I had eclipses in my 10th house, I was doing English for many, many, many years, my whole life, and I changed to astrology, like a complete 180. So eclipses do major like reversals, not reversals in a negative way, but like pivots, I should say, in our life where we have major awakenings. And I see that for you. It might not happen all at once, but that is initiating as the North Node moves into Aquarius on the 27th of July. So 3rd quarter of the year is really indicating that there is this new awakening around what do I need to change in my career ambitions in order to be able to align more with my authentic sense of self, because that's what Aquarius is. It's all about the individual. I mean, it is actually about the collective in the sense that Aquarius is a sign concerned with humanity, but it's individualistic in the sense that it's very concerned with truth and authenticity. And so if there's something that doesn't feel honest or doesn't feel in alignment with what you're trying to pursue with your life and your time, then it is going to become apparent during this third season or third quarter. But this is a really lucky phase. I pulled the clover, and this is your overall overarching energy for the third quarter. And so you are definitely in a phase of attracting abundance. But I think that's only going to come to you once you decide to make these changes. With the Six of Swords and the Judgment card, the moving on to calmer waters, or basically having things come to you quite easily, things that feel in alignment with you, that's only going to really happen when you commit to some kind of change. So this could be, again, pivoting your career, your brand, your long-term goals, your expectations as a family, as a parent, pivoting where you live, how much time you spend at work versus home. Those are all topics that can come up for you right now where you're really considering something new. That's really what Aquarius is about. It's about innovation, and Pluto in Aquarius is requiring innovation for your soul to feel most alive. We also have the Leo solar eclipse happening on August 12th. So let me fast forward to that. So this is going to be happening in your fourth house. So at 19 degrees. So like I said, there could be some kind of major shifts in your home or your career. And a Leo eclipse, if you have any planets around 19 degrees of Leo, or really any of the fixed signs like Taurus, Aquarius, or Scorpio, this is going to likely indicate something major for you. And this eclipse is going to ask you to potentially make some shifts within the home. Like I did mention moving. So some of you guys could literally relocate or have some kind of other major shift within your family dynamics. Like if you were homeschooling your kids and you decided you wanted to change your career, maybe that looks like you no longer homeschooling them and having more time to spend in your career, for example. So yeah, this is going to look different for everybody. But I think that ultimately this, what you can see with Mercury opposite Pluto, it is going to indicate that you may have to make some of these kind of big, hard decisions. And that's what the Judgment card can indicate. But I do think that it is going to be a growth-oriented decision. So even though you initially might have to end something or transition out of something, like moving homes, for example, it is ultimately in the name of growth. And so even if you temporarily feel like, oh, I'm taking a step back, you're really not, actually. In the larger context of things, you're really not. So just keep that in mind. The next eclipse that we have is the Pisces lunar eclipse on August 28th. And the Pisces lunar eclipse is going to take place in your 11th house. Let's see. Let me just move this ahead a little bit. It's going to take place at 4 degrees of Pisces. And this is going to be a little bit of a volatile full moon because it's an eclipse, first of all. And it's squaring Uranus in your second house. So this could indicate that there is, again, some tensions coming up here that require a lot of change and adaptation from you. This could also indicate that change is being thrust upon you, or that people in your life are struggling with this change. So let me continue with the example of you moving. Maybe you do move, but if you have kids, which is a 5th house topic where the sun is, maybe the kids are not handling that well. And that requires a major shift for you. Or maybe this eclipse indicates that there's some kind of major shift in your finances because Uranus is in the 2nd house. So whatever is happening here, it does have some volatile sort of energy, and it might take a little while for it to fully settle down. But it's important to, again, embrace the idea of a, innovating and moving towards something new that might initially feel quite shocking or feel like a step back, but you're actually going to be progressing in the long run. So that's what I want you to keep your sights set on, is that it's okay to let go of the old in this situation. And a Pisces eclipse is a lot around trust and blind faith and kind of taking these leaps of faith. And I definitely see with the clover for you this quarter that you're going to be coming out on top, that you're going to be quite lucky. So what is your advice for this quarter? We have the she who forgives, remorse, guilt, and forgiveness, and then she who creates, creativity, originality, and spontaneity. So it's interesting that these came out together because I'm intentionally trying to pick one card, but they both came out, so I went with it. So let's start with the she who forgives. This talks about guilt and forgiveness, feeling remorseful. What did I just say? I said that you guys, I think, are going to need to make some kind of change, and you might have people who are affected by this or who are resistant to it that are giving you a hard time, like your kids, for example, if you have any, or just other people in your life, like friends, or maybe other people who just don't understand the shift that you're making. You might initially feel guilty for this, but your advice is to find a place of forgiveness for yourself, for that other person, for not understanding, and not try to make them understand. I think that comes naturally with time and with evidence of, you proving that this path works. And again, the only way to do that is by going down it and showing them that it does. So I think that instead of trying to make it better, you have to just emotionally come to a conclusion with it. And I think that comes with forgiving yourself rather than dwelling on if you made the right decision or not. The second piece of advice is she who creates, creativity, originality, and spontaneity. So again, this card is really speaking to what I was saying about originality and authenticity and creating something new that aligns with that sense of originality and authenticity. This is not about going into a cookie cutter pathway that everyone expects of you, where, tradition, society, or other people in your life, they want that for you. No, this is not about that. This has the energy of rebellion, especially this Pisces lunar eclipse on the 28th. It has an energy of rebellion that is going to stir the pot, that is going to, again, bring up people who don't understand it, who don't get it, because it's ahead of its time. And you have to just embrace that sense of creation from nothing. And eventually, again, through proof and evidence, people will be able to understand retroactively why you made the decisions that you made. So that's your advice. And let's talk about your blessings for this quarter. So we have the Four Swords in reverse. So this is a card that indicates that you're going to be going through a period of no longer being dormant in some way. If you've been antisocial, if you've been spending a lot of time indoors, or if you've been kind of cloistered away emotionally, mentally, socially, I see that ending, the ice melting, and you coming out into the world with a lot more vigor and energy. So I feel like if you have been just thrown off by something, or again, just like kind of more in your own essence, I think that's going to warm up and you're going to start potentially socializing more or feeling more excited about life. Maybe you're going to have more ideas that you can engage with, but there's something here around activity, busyness, and being more external and out of the house. That is a blessing for you. So rest when you feel you need to rest. And then once you get to Q3, you're going to be going through a period of busyness and activeness. And that rest, you're going to have appreciated it for, when you did have it. The next card we have is the Eight of Cups in reverse. So this card, again, can kind of indicate that there is a hesitation around walking away from something, but it's paired up with the Ten of Pentacles. So you might initially hesitate to leave something behind because of your desire for security and success. But with the Ten of Pentacles, this is a card of the greatest long-term financial security that you can have for your family, for your physical, money and location of where you live, everything about it, your legacy, your support system, all of it is like the highest and most stable it can be. So these cards together are saying, even though you might initially feel a hesitation around leaving and uprooting yourself in some way, the next place that you plant yourself, if you move or you change careers or you have some major life shift like that with your family, or maybe with your parents, for example, whatever you decide to do in that regard is going to initially feel uprooting, but it will eventually feel much more stable. And I feel like that's a lot of your messages, Taurus, is to have a lot of patience here, because again, the things that might look on the surface to be risky are actually going to be the things that pay off. And if you had stayed in that other position, like for example, let's say that you stay in a job that doesn't feel right anymore and you don't end up moving, even though you want to, then what if you thought, oh, I'm doing this to be more secure, but then what if you lost a job and couldn't pay for your house? And it's like, you don't know what is actually stable. And so listening to your gut around something is going to be the most important. And I see that as well with the High Priestess card. It's trying to say that there's still a lot that you can't see at this time, but that it's leading you towards the 10 of Pentacles in the end. So having a lot of trust, and I think that you will, because this is your blessings. I think you're going to have a faith that you know what you're doing. And mixing this with the Knight of Wands indicates that you're also going to be proving to yourself that you're progressing really rapidly. So it's not like you're just having blind faith with no evidence. I see you continuing to prove to yourself that things are accelerating. So if you do, for example, quit your job and move somewhere else for a new job, and it feels like a huge change and a huge risk, you might feel like you're blindly going into it, but you're going to very quickly get settled in, meet your coworkers, make more money. I could see you feeling really proud of the progress that you make and the decision to take that leap of faith. You're going to feel like it really pays off, even if there is maybe some initial guilt of, oh, but I left my family behind, or I made this change, I left this company behind. No, don't worry, because this is your lucky period of time. And so if you have an instinct to make some kind of major shift, especially in career or home, you should trust that right now, because it is going to lead to a prosperous ending for you. So let's go ahead and dive into your Q4 next. Okay, and lastly, we're going to have Q4, and this is going to take place from October to December 2026. And what's most notable about this period of time is Venus retrograde, which for you guys personally is going to be influential, because Venus is your planetary ruler. And so whenever it moves retrograde, which happens relatively infrequently, not even every year, you are going to get a time of reevaluation around yourself, your life, and more importantly, because Venus is retrograding through the sign of Scorpio from October 3rd to November 13th, which is your 7th house sign, you are going to be really evaluating your relationships and looking at that area of your life, how people are showing up in your life, how you are showing up, and deciding who stays and who goes. It could also indicate that there are changes within other people in your life. So if you have relatives, for example, there might be some things going on in their lives where they are having some movement or changes. Or if you did end up moving in the last quarter, or if you were thinking about it, those things could be affecting your relationship with friends, family, children, those types of things. So this Venus retrograde is a lot about reflecting on how people in your life are. Are they doing okay? Are you doing okay with them? Do you or do they need to show up differently to support one another, to move through certain changes? And, you know, Scorpio is a lot about the psychological state of things as well. So if you need to address something that you're feeling, that could also come up at this time. So, okay, let's talk about the cards that I pulled for the energy of this quarter. I got the stork as the first and overall energy. So the stork represents changes with family, and that could obviously come from a birth of a loved one, a passing of a loved one, some type of movement. It doesn't just have to be family, but it often is going to be representing that, especially with Jupiter moving through your family sector. But this card can also just indicate that there is the potential for something new to come into your life. And again, that's often why it's associated with children. But there can also be a new relationship that comes in. So Venus retrograde could help kind of clear out the old energy to bring in a new partner that might align more with who you are becoming. And it's interesting because this is next to the Empress card, and the Empress is also the fertile card. I don't know if she shows up as pregnant in this depiction, but typically in the tarot, she is pregnant. And so there's something about the Empress that represents fertility and the ability to create something out of nothing. And it represents the abundance of life. So there is a general feeling that you can grow something at this stage or bring something to life at this stage, even if that is a relationship with somebody or reviving an old relationship. If things have been, if you're married and you have Venus retrograde here, you might find that that relationship is tested, and maybe the Stork and the Empress can represent a reconnection after that period of evaluating how you can show up better in your relationship with that person. So it can help us strengthen the relationships by initially showing what has been undermining them. If you've been too busy to connect with them, if you haven't been honest with how you felt about them, any kind of relationship in your life, this will bring awareness to that so that you can have a more fertile ground for connection and prosperity with those that you love. And again, to create something out of nothing, or to create abundance where there was lack. We see the King of Cups in reverse. So some of you guys might really need to let your emotions out and be kind of direct with people, forthright with people. I feel like, a lot of times the King of Cups upright represents somebody who's in a lot of emotional control, and they, always have the right thing to say, and they're the mentor and the guide, and they listen, and they're so measured. Well, this card is in reverse. So you might not always feel like that. You might not always feel like you're having the best emotional reaction to somebody. You might get messy during a Venus retrograde in Scorpio in your 7th. You might have, kind of a word vomit on somebody, emotional vomit, or somebody might do that to you. And I feel like there is this sense, the overarching theme and the sense of resiliency and, again, fertile ground for growth and to kind of pull up the weeds. And that might stir things up in the process, but it is really going to re-engage and reinforce and strengthen the good relationships in your life. So it might not always feel super healthy at first, but it is actually leading to a healthier place. And again, I feel like this is a very consistent message for Taurus. It might seem one way at first, but in the end, it's going here. So yes, even if you have a big emotional, blow up or expression, with the Six of Swords after, I see this being something that ends up cooling off for you. And not only that, but actually gets you into a new destination, because this is a card of travel. So whatever conclusions you come to, whatever conversations you have, whatever emotional epiphanies you go through, it's leading you to some other destination. It's helping you overcome something that you were stuck in potentially with somebody else. This can also indicate contracts as well. So if you have a business partner, or if you have a contract with a company that you work at, Venus retrograde could also speak to those relationships as well, and those commitments to people or entities in your life, and you could be questioning that as well. We also have the Three of Wands in reverse. So this might feel like a time where your world gets a little bit kind of closer. The Three of Wands typically represents, along with the Six of Swords, actually, literal travel or trying something new or going on some kind of adventure. I don't feel like that's the energy for you guys during this period of time, especially, around October, you're having the sun move through your 6th house, which can be really a good time to focus on routine. And then it'll be about your relationships and kind of getting your finances in order during this key period of time. So in general, I feel like this might be a time where you are kind of like wrapping up loose ends or making sure that you are being productive with certain things that are practical. Yeah, this might also be looking at your finances. Venus retrograde is a good time to do that. So instead of kind of going out a bunch or trying a bunch of new things, this could be a time to refine and perfect the things that are already working. And again, kind of tie up loose ends and make things maybe more efficient, staying close to home and making that work in the best way possible for you. The Six of Swords does indicate a sense of travel in the sense that you're moving from one emotional state to another, from choppy waters, maybe emotional explosions in some ways, to smooth waters of having clear understanding of the relationship, the commitment, and what both people need. So there is a sense of emotional travel, but when it comes to physical travel, when it comes to adventures and again, busyness, I see that kind of like lowering. I see that again, yeah, not being the emphasis right now. So what's your advice from Spirit for Q4? So we have the She Who Dreams, She Who Hopes, and She Who Becomes. So this is definitely a time for you guys to be dreaming up what something could be, especially when it comes to love, but not just love. It could be about yourself as well, but dreaming more about what something can become. So if the relationship feels stagnant, or if you feel like you keep ending up with the wrong people, or if you're single and you're really tired of being single, this is a good time to be dreaming up the ideal relationship, or how you can change the way that you show up, or what you're looking for, or how you present to your partner or whatever, and trying to get that from them as well, I guess. But there's a sense of like, how can I transform the existing relationship, go through a metamorphosis in the relationships that I have, as well as in what I'm looking for to attract that kind of ideal situation, or to create that ideal situation. So part of your advice is that, essentially. The blessings that we have are the Ace of Cups, which came out in reverse. We have the King of Swords, which came out in reverse, and then the Ace of Wands upright, and the Nine of Cups, which came out in reverse. Okay. So the Ace of Cups and the King of Swords, I feel like part of what this message is that there's going to be some really big release that is going to help you get the truth off your chest and to be honest with people. So that person's honest with you, you're honest with them. It gets to a place of really clear understanding of each other, even if there is a big emotional, or maybe you say initially something else that you don't mean. Like it could get a little messy or choppy waters for a second, but it's going to end with you feeling like you have a new emotional leaf and like you guys are on the same page. So you guys are communicating well, you have clear ideas of what you're going for, you are have the right intention, you're seeking out the right types of people, you're showing up in a way that makes you proud. That's what I'm seeing. The Ace of Wands really does indicate that there's renewed vigor and excitement for your relationships as well. So again, this is an area that's going through refinement, and it doesn't just have to be relationships, but I'm seeing you guys kind of come back in terms of your excitement about something. So I think this is in particular pertaining to the Nine of Cups in reverse. So I did see this at the start of your reading, where there might have been something that like didn't fulfill your wishes in Q1. So maybe a relationship didn't pull through, or maybe somebody disappointed you in something that you expected from them. But this is saying that you are having renewed vigor again and excited again about that thing that you used to want. So let's say you've always wanted children with the Stork card. Very specific example, but apply it to another example for you. Let's say you've always wanted children. Q1, you're talking to a partner or a person and you're like, I want to have children. And you're like, oh yeah. And then they kind of, reveal at some point that they don't want kids. And then you're hit with this realization that you're alone in wanting this, that you're not on the same page. And there's a disappointment there. But then I see by the time you get to the end of the quarter, you either with that same person or with another person find that you're on the same page again, or you find that you are getting excited about the prospect of having kids again, that you haven't lost hope, that you know that somebody is out there who wants the same thing as you, even if they're not right there at that moment in time. But yeah, there's something here of like healing from what has already happened. So if you've had a breakup in the past with the Three of Swords and Eight of Cups, I see you healing from that breakup, especially if you had one in the beginning of the quarter, beginning of 2026. But yeah, I see you letting go of the disappointments, the unrealized dreams, or the ways that people let you down or didn't meet expectations. And I think that it's really going to allow you to have this excitement about life and about relationships again. Or if this was something else, it could be, whatever else disappointed you. But I feel like you're coming back online in terms of that wish, that goal, that dream, instead of allowing it to die off. And so again, some of you guys, if this was a relationship, could be coming back together, or especially during Venus retrograde, often exes will come back into our lives. Or you could be having that person pop back in just to close the chapter, close the door. And then in the future, when Venus goes direct, maybe you find somebody else that's better and you realize how much you've healed, how much you've moved on from that thing that you walked away from. But I definitely feel like whatever you left in the past, whatever broke your heart in the past, I see you moving on from it and 100% letting it go, to the point where I think you're going to be really proud of yourself, and you're going to see that you have a lot more energy and vitality to give to the things in your life that are going really well. So that's Q4 for you guys. I want to wrap up with mentioning one more time your yearly card, which is generosity. So I do feel like you guys are coming from a place of abundance this year. I think it's a journey, but ultimately I think that you're going to gain a lot by focusing on how you can show up in the world in the best possible way, especially with the North Node moving into Aquarius in your 10th house. You do play a really big role in your purpose here in Earth, in particular in your reputation, or how you show up online, or how you show up in your career, or how you impact people through your ambitions and your goals, or your family presence. This generosity of spirit, thinking about others, thinking about how you can leave a lasting and powerful legacy, is what is meant to be the focus for you now. Instead of just being about the self, which often Saturn, Neptune, Aries can be about, this is bigger than that. This is bigger than you. So I encourage you to focus on that when the time gets tough, or when you are uncertain or you doubt yourself. Stay connected to a bigger purpose of who you are helping and why, and it will help you continue on your path towards that long-term goal. So that's what I see for you, Taurus. If you enjoyed this, I would really appreciate any support that you can give this channel. I would really appreciate a subscribe, a like, a comment, a hype. If you have points, that means the world to me, because I am trying to grow my channel and putting a lot of effort into these videos, and I appreciate any form of repayment for that, even if it's just a virtual hug or anything like that. So I love you guys. I hope you have a beautiful day, and I will see you soon. Bye.